You've already heard, to be successful, you have to be hardworking, disciplined, and consistent. However, what many don't mention is that there's a certain foundation you need for that. Without it, you won't be able to be consistent, disciplined, or hardworking. In this video, you'll learn what the foundational prerequisite for success is, how to know if you have it or not, and how to get it if you don't have it already. So first, let's start with what we already know. So you've already heard, to be successful, you need a few things. For example, you need a definition of success, of course, because if you don't have one, you are just chasing some success that doesn't even fit to you. So for example, if you deep down would like to have a coffee shop or whatever, but you chase the definition of success you see on social media everywhere. So you think, okay, success is just having much money, being rich, and so on. Then you just chase something that doesn't even really fit to you. That's one reason why having a definition of success is so important. Another prerequisite for success is, of course, consistent work. Because if you would like to have this coffee shop or want to be rich, of course, at both things, you will have to put in the work. Otherwise, nothing will happen. That's what we know. And of course, discipline to do this stuff you don't really want to do, but just still doing it because the reward after doing all that stuff is worth it. That's what we already know. Without those, you won't be successful. However, there's one thing you need before all that stuff. Before being able to be consistent, before being able to be disciplined, and if you think a bit further, probably even before having a right definition of success. And it is having a healthy relationship to dopamine. Doesn't sound sexy, but hear me out. So dopamine is there to motivate us to get some kind of reward. If you think back to the caveman days, we needed something to motivate us to get out, to search food, to go hunting, to reproduce, and so on. And today, dopamine, of course, still has the same function, getting us motivated to seek a reward. Now, in the modern world, there are two ways to use our dopamine. First, of course, we can use it like we did in the caveman days, to get motivated to do the hard stuff in order to get the reward later. So an example for that would be going to the gym in order to get a good physique and be healthy. That would be how dopamine is supposed to work. But now there's a second way how we can use our dopamine. Because now, in order to get a reward, we don't have to work hard anymore. We don't have to put in the effort anymore. We can just get the reward of stimulation everywhere in the modern world. And that's what most people are doing. Instead of using our dopamine, spending it. For example, on scrolling. Because if you scroll, you instantly get the reward of stimulation. So now you get a reward, but you don't put in any amount of work. So the dopamine is just spent. It's gone. And with the dopamine being gone, of course, your motivation is also gone. Your motivation to do the hard stuff or to be disciplined. So first prerequisite for success is way harder. Then being consistent, of course, is also something hard, and you're not that motivated to do that. So even harder to be successful. And the point with having a definition of success, it's not directly a dopamine thing, but with all this distraction. If you just distract yourself every 3 minutes, you pull out your phone and distract yourself with scrolling. Of course, then you don't really have this overview of your life because you are just distracted. You don't know where you actually want to go long term. So all these things we know about success, what we need for success, having a definition of success, being disciplined, and staying consistent, all get way harder or even impossible by being overstimulated and spending our dopamine instead of actually using it. And the solution to that would be, of course, to go from spending our dopamine to actually using it. Sounds simple, but if you ever try to reduce your screen time, to go away from this overstimulation, you know, it's not. That's because phone addiction is a vicious cycle with two things you have to work on at the same time. If you just fix one, it often won't work. But how does this cheap dopamine cycle work? So we know one problem, the problem of spending our dopamine, just throwing it away into our phone, into scrolling and not having any motivation anymore. So that's the one part, spending our dopamine. But now, because we spend our dopamine and we are not really motivated to do anything else, we go to not having anything else to do or not doing anything else. And now, because you're not doing anything anymore, what are you going to do? You are going to scroll again, get stimulated again, get the dopamine you can get, the cheap dopamine through spending it. And then, of course, you are less motivated to do anything, so you scroll, and that's this vicious cycle many people are trapped in. And now if you just try to reduce your screen time, but don't work on doing anything else, having an alternative to spending your dopamine, of course, then you still have nothing to do, and it will be way more likely to start again with scrolling and getting overstimulated and spending your dopamine. That's why the most efficient way to actually stop with all that overstimulation is by reducing your screen time and at the same time getting something else to do, something in the real world, a healthy source of dopamine, so that you actively change your source of dopamine from cheap dopamine to a healthy source of dopamine that actually gets you to do the hard stuff instead of just gets you to scroll. What I would recommend is to start by reducing your screen time, because of course if you reduce your screen time, you will get to the point where you're just sitting around and you don't have anything to do. So you have to do something, and even if it's not productive in the classical sense, like working on your goals or something, even if it's just going out, not even knowing what you are going to do, then this is still more productive than scrolling and just spending your dopamine. And if you already have decreased your screen time and your dopamine isn't that fucked up anymore, I would really focus on getting something else to do, something that feels true to you. So if you want to focus on decreasing your screen time, want to start there, then here's a video on that. And if you already have decreased your screen time and now want to focus a bit more on actually getting something else in the real world to do, then there's a video about that here. I hope you took something out of this video, and then I wish you a nice day and bye.